But you want to be a lady.
I've left everything I ever had.
I know you think I'm not half good enough.
A very respectable woman.
Give dinner parties and entertain your husband's friends.
I'm sure Cleopatra never bothered about that.
I'm not a well-behaved. But I want you to be absolutely perfect.
Welcome to the Well-Behaved Woman
Musical
Podcast.
Podcast
musical research episodes.
Yeah.
Take 4.
Pre-musical.
Yeah, this is episode 4. And today we're talking about
Mennonite Girls Can Cook. Have you ever done any recipes for Mennonite Girls Can Cook?
Yeah, I look up the basket recipe.
Yeah.
All the time.
I definitely, when I'm looking for a recipe, I look on there first before I look elsewhere.
Yeah, I will definitely type in like, I don't know, buns, Mennonite Girls Can Cook.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Pasca.
That's so funny.
It's very useful.
Yeah, it's a very useful website/cookbook.
Do you remember the first time you heard of the website or cookbook when Mennonite Girls Can Cook?
No, but I just remember our mom referencing it a lot and being like, make sure you use the Mennonite Girls Can Cook one.
Yeah, I remember our mom, but I think the very first memory that I like consciously have of it is being at camp at like Mennonite Brethren camp in Saskatchewan, and some girl talking about it, like one of the other cabin leaders there. I think it was like LIT training, and she was like talking about Mennonite Girls Can Cook, and I was like, oh yeah. And I think that was the first moments I was really realizing what a Mennonite was. Like I just like we went to a Mennonite church and we went to Mennonite camp, and like I never and we were Mennonite, but I never processed that it was like a thing until around 16 years old. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we tried really, really hard to get someone from the Mennonite Girls Can Cook cookbook to interview.
We really wanted to talk with at least one of them.
We really tried. We looked them up. We private messaged. We emailed.
The publishers of the book. We were like, anyway.
We could not get anyone.
We did get one of them to follow us on Instagram, though, so we feel like that's a win.
Yeah, so that's at least... She's watching, hopefully.
Yeah, we hope.
Or listening. And hi, Lavella Schellenberg. We're big fans.
Fangirls.
Yeah, so this episode is all about how food and culture and gender all kind of mix together. We're in the kind of middle stages of a woman's life where she's maybe a full-on mom and or full career mode and is expected to be cooking every day and cleaning the house and maintaining a household.
While also, like doing everything.
Yeah,
like,
being a super mom of some kind.
Yeah, just like all of those expectations in that era.
So that's kind of what we're looking at today. And our first thing we wanted to do was just introduce our Menno Minute. Insert music here.
It's a Menno Minute.
Music, woo. So this is a group of ladies that we're just discussing what are the ideal expectations of a Mennonite woman and what they felt growing up in their lives. Yeah.
What, in your opinion, is a Mennonite woman?
Oh, someone who bakes buns weekly and
I fail.
I'd say there were two kinds. Ones that are culturally Mennonite and ones that are religiously Mennonite.
Yeah,
so
that's a good answer.
Culturally Mennonite, grew up in a Mennonite home, childhood in a Mennonite church most likely, learned all the Mennonite things to do. Well, we were Russian Mennonites, so Ukrainian Mennonites, so, holopsy, pierogies, and sausage, and buns, and Napoleon torta, the food. The food makes you Mennonite.
Well, growing up, I think what I envisioned a Mennonite woman was very different. It was like Saturday morning, you bake buns, and the house gets cleaned because you have FOSFA and people coming over for Sunday, and it was just... I knew my role growing up. It was like, you don't go anywhere on Saturdays until that house is spotless. Like it was just, and then, and the baking was always Saturday morning because that would last you for the buns for the week. And it, like all my friends, it was all the same. Like all their moms were baking buns on Saturday. And then you got plots to go with that too. And yeah.
So we talked to Marlene Epp again, who is our resident expert on all things Mennonite women.
Wealth of knowledge.
And so she has written chapters and taught on culture and food and Mennonite women and how that affects women. and she just had
gender roles and
yeah,
cooking and
she had
culture.
some really good things to say.
She like did a whole bunch of research on this topic, so.
And looking at different cultures. So
Mhm.
like looking at like Indian Mennonite culture
Yeah.
versus like a
what
Canadian
a typical Mennonite
culture.
dish is in Canada versus a typical Mennonite dish in Ethiopia or India.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
she has really good things to say.
Yeah.
So we'll give it a
Here
listen.
she is.
My most recent book was about Mennonites and food. It was called Eating Like a Mennonite.
Oh, perfect.
And it kind of brought all my my food research together. And I have a chapter on gender, on women and food in there. I made a lot of fun of Mennonite Girls Can Cook when it came out because the title just, it's this essentialism, like all Mennonite girls can cook. And I don't think they were being ironic either. That was very catchy. I have a chapter on cookbooks, like the More with Less cookbook and some of the other favorite cookbooks. And I mean, what I find really interesting about Mennonite cookbooks is that I think they have probably like they're abundant and have sold hundreds of thousands of copies. And I think they've told the world way more about Mennonites than any other genre of writing. Because lots of people who are not Mennonite are familiar with Mennonites through cookbooks. So, I argue that producing published cookbooks were a way to professionalize informal labor, on the one hand. It was to preserve ethnic identity, and, in cultural groups, it's often women, like when you immigrate to Canada, for instance, it's often women who bear the responsibility or, have the opportunity to maintain cultural traditions or ethnic identity. A lot of that is through foodways, and certainly producing cookbooks is one way of doing that. And I think, there's a bit of an I don't know if either of you are interested in traditional Mennonite cooking, but I saw kind of an uptake of that, particularly during COVID, where people were doing home cooking more and watching videos or making videos of learning to cook traditional dishes. So, cookbooks are really fascinating. And then there's the whole gender thing. I suggest that, the whole feminist model might say, like, if you identify with your food production, your cooking, that's kind of anti-feminist. But I don't. I think many Mennonite women, they received a lot of empowerment and pride in their cooking when, even in churches, right? Like who did all the cooking, endless church suppers in churches, right? Who kept that whole machine going? And you can't have a church meeting without a church supper, right? So who kept all that going? So there's this empowerment and all this. I have a bunch of, stories about women who, they would compare their baked goods, right? At bake sales or at church suppers, like whose svibak gets snapped up the first. And on the other hand, I describe cooking for some women as fear-inducing, right? Because if they didn't enjoy cooking, and this was what they were supposed to be good at, or they didn't feel they were good cooks, or their cooking was critiqued maybe by their husbands, and felt they had to please, right? So there's the darker side of that, right? Or women who came from periods of hard times, like from the Soviet Union, then the 20s and late 40s and 50s, women whose families had almost starved, right? And they didn't have the means to become a really great Mennonite cook, and so they felt inadequate. So there are these two sides, right? It's empowering, but it's also can be full of pressure and feelings of inadequacy. And just sometimes the sheer labor and abundance. There's a lot of published memoirs out there by women, and there's an awful lot about food production in them. And I read these and I just marvel at what they, how much food they could produce in a day, not to mention all the preserving, all the food preserving that they do. So do you know pepper nuts? Like, is that familiar to you?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's kind of the Mennonite thing to do at Christmas, and it's the only thing I do because I used to make them for my university classes, and they were easy thing to bring, and then there was lots to distribute, right? Part of my interest in Mennonite women in food took me to India and Congo, where there are large populations of Mennonites. So in India, I was asking them, of course, they don't make pepper nuts, but, do you have specialty foods at Christmas time? Because they're living as a minority in a largely Hindu culture. And so they introduced me to anarsa, which is, it's kind of like a fritter, a deep fried fritter, but not quite porzelcha. It's made of rice flour, and it's a very labor intensive thing. That's why they only make it at Christmas. So they sent me a recipe for it. I've never made it because it just seems like way too much work, and I probably would fail. So, but I kind of compared those, even though they're Mennonite women from very different cultures. I was trying to find commonality through food, right? Even though they were different foods, what was the meaning of food for them? And whether you're making pepper nuts or whether you're making an arsa, this is a way to it was a food ritual. It's a way to mark a religious ritual in your church. When, face it, Mennonites, we've gotten rid of all the good rituals from church life. There's a plainness, which was part of early Anabaptism, to get rid of all the ritual. But all the world religions have food related rituals, right? Even Catholicism more so, and evangelical Protestants, don't have much at all. So I think we kind of create these rituals, and women are at the core of that.
Next up on the pod is Karen Thiessen, a lovely lady from my church, Peace Church of 52nd, that my husband is a pastor at and I attend. Yes, here is her. She's just going to discuss what it felt like growing up as a Mennonite woman and expectations on her as a woman.
I think Mennonite women nowadays, are able to make decisions for themselves, live lives that are purposeful, no matter if they have children or married. Or when I was young, it was mostly men, it was only men in leadership roles, men pastors, men in the council, men as deacons, men as everything in the church leadership. Women could be the Sunday school teachers and, do the potlucks and that kind of stuff. So there definitely was that role, and women really weren't allowed to. I felt they probably could speak at annual meetings, but it didn't feel like the women did say very much. They probably said a lot to their husbands, and the husbands got up and voiced their opinions, but you didn't hear women speak their opinions until quite a bit later. So that's as I was growing up. When I got into my 20s, then women became a little bit more able to voice their opinions. But, certainly when I was younger, my parents did not expect my sister and I to go to university or college or any of that, because we were just going to get married and have kids. And I changed that. I went to college, and I didn't get married until very late. But because I was single for a long time, I had to make my own way. So certainly my younger days, I always thought I was going to get married and have kids and have lots of kids and be there for my kids. But that didn't happen. I had to kind of change my thinking about that. And what I went into was working in mental health with families who have children that are preschool children that are getting kicked out of daycares and preschools and having huge difficulty in the community. And often I have thought later on, well, maybe I would not have been able to put so much of myself into that role if I had had my own children. I gave a lot to the kids.
So we talked about trying to get the Mennonite Girls Can Cook ladies on the podcast for an interview.
Yes.
But we discovered along the way that apparently someone had attempted in the past to write a Mennonite Girls Can Cook musical.
Like about them and the creation of this
I guess
cookbook.
they weren't so pleased with it. So that might be one of the reasons why we couldn't get any of them. They might be wary of a project like that again.
But we think it's so cool that
Yeah.
someone had created something like that and
Yeah.
even attempted. But what was also cool is along our project, through a person to a person to a
Yeah.
person, we got in contact with these two women who were part of a group of 3 women who created a Mennonite women musical production. It wasn't a musical, but it was
They called it a composition.
a composition. It was like a performance of reading and music and like this beautiful
Poetry and
creation of like
maybe even dance. I don't know.
conglomerate of arts and storytelling about a woman's experience, a Mennonite woman's experience.
And they did that in the 90s.
Yeah, they did in the 90s, and it was really cool. We got to talk with them
Yeah.
about it. So it was
So-
Carol Ann Weaver and Carol Penner
Yeah.
were the 2 we got to talk to.
And they're out in Waterloo.
Yeah.
And yeah, they did this all in the 90s. Basically did the exact same project we're doing, but with a different approach and without the use of things that we have like Zoom and video recording.
They collected
things
letters
and-
where we got
Yeah.
to talk to people face to face, or
Yeah.
not face to face, like Zoom to Zoom.
It's still face to
Face to face. And they went more on they just wanted to present the stories. They didn't try to edit it. We're collecting stories.
Yeah.
to
We're creating a
create-
narrative.
Yeah. So we're more like, it's like research that we're gonna shift and retell.
Yeah.
But, so different approaches, but it was really cool just to see like
Yeah.
what women have done in the past and like building upon that to like build something different and like keep that ball rolling and to see where it goes. It's important.
So here it is.
Our first question is it's about the why. Like, why did it come up? I mean, read your things and we kind of idea, but we want to hear it from you. So like, why did you want to do this project? And that's.
Well, I was reading, what's her name? Pincola Estes, Women Who Run with Wolves. Clarissa Pincola Estes, or something like that. Women Who Run with Wolves, and wolves being a pack. I was reading it. I was going down to a Mennonite arts conference somewhere in the States, in Ohio, I believe. And I thought, wow. We do have a pack. We are a pack. Mostly we've been sidelined and have been told we can't do this, or we're not appropriate for that, or we can't get this credit because we're not that and the other. Because I had been sort of in and out of the Mennonite ethos for so many times, and I wasn't sure which way I wanted to go. But then when I thought about that our people have stories, then somehow it sparked me.
Yeah, and you'd had some really hard experiences with men trying to silence you and your work, and to try to find solidarity, right? That other women have also been silenced. There's this one story, it's just absolutely powerful, in the Quietly Landed, of the piano being taken away from Carol Ann's mother's house because the pastor said it was sinful. People had to give away their pianos. And they were really musical family. And it just like tore your heart out. It was a really sad story. But it's like a silencing, right? It's like control of people. And
you too.
So many
go
people,
ahead. Sorry.
So many people sent in powerful stories about being silenced and finding your voice. Carol Ann and I both had little girls, because our girls were born right around the same time. And so we had a lot in common because we were new moms and wanting, to empower our girls. And so it was like a generational thing. And you were connecting with your mom and, And so there was a group of women who were reading stories, and Carol Ann wrote a score that undergirded the stories, and then also individual music pieces that were inserted as compositions within that.
Well, I had in mind that these stories would be, because I've been sort of in and out of drama projects my whole waking life, as far as I know, wanting to do things. My first drama thing was a drama on Susanna the Pioneer Cow. Grade school. Yeah, so, I mean, this is a few years later. And we would always I would pretend a lot of play act stuff. So this was no new thing for me to come up with some kind of multimedia thing, because that was part of what I grew up doing as a grad student too, in composition at Indiana University.
Right.
But yeah, to make a composite of it and something that people may resonate with and find interesting or meaningful or whatever, but mostly to tell people's stories, because I figured we all had a song to sing, and I wrote a little song about that, and the crew sang it, which was nice of them.
Yeah, like it was going to be premiered at this women's arts conference, and so that was quite a rush to do that in front of a whole bunch of people. I think we got a very good response from people, very powerful people coming up to us and saying so many thank yous to that. It just sparked a lot of ideas in people about telling their own stories.
Actually, Carol's perfect and articulate, but it wasn't even an arts conference. It was some kind of historical theology kind of thing. I mean, arts was way off in the fringes, and that's why we lucked in, because they weren't expecting art per se, and so we came out with this art thing. And beforehand, I had talked with Julia I don't know if you know Julia Kasdorf. Probably not. I mean,
American poet. She's a professor. Yeah. But so much of that, being able to do that, was that at the conference, there was women in leadership who would support us.
Right.
Because if it had been a conference run by men at that time, this would have been too crazy. Mm-hmm. What are you doing? That's not a paper. That's not, so we did feel the support of Julia in that.
So, and I had been very fascinated by a Canadian poet. Do you know Di Brandt? Well, anyhow, I deigned to approach her, and she sent me for just to die for beautiful poems, and I set it to music and got a singer that was a friend of mine, and I made some art songs out of it, urgent songs that they weren't just sort of like, oh, this is a nice life, thank you for the blessings type thing. It was talking about a miscarriage one time and
abuse too, right? Wasn't there abuse? Yeah.
Oh God, it's heartrending.
And so for us, the challenge was trying to weave it, like all these very disparate stories. How do we get some sort of a logical or a narrative flow, and also to find hope within the stories? There was quite a bit of hope, and we wanted a trajectory. There were a lot of different themes in there, but being silenced, I think patriarchy. No, people didn't usually use that word ever, but power, people using power against women to hold them down, and people finding their voice and being firm and strong, and solidarity with women.
Perseverance through really, really tough times. That I think you Ukrainian Mennonites had some amazing stories about how you did this and that during times that my people, been hundreds of years since my people had been through that kind of stress.
The Swiss Mennonites, yeah.
Yeah. My people came to Pennsylvania, Penn's Woods, as it were, back in the 1700s, whereas Carol and your folks' people would have come, some of
1920s, yeah.
All right, there you go.
Yeah.
But for whatever that's worth, so we blended and melded these together. But I don't think we were looking so much for themes as much as just honest to God heart stories about basically silenced. Were you silenced? I think that was the question.
I think what we wanted it to do was to empower women to be in touch with their own stories. It's hard to explain to younger women how radical it was to talk about childbirth in a public performance, or to talk about women being silenced, that those were things that were just the unspoken stories. And to say them out loud in a performance that this is happening. This is the way people live. It was just like it was like breaking a taboo that we're just supposed to suffer silently, like just take it. And to hear the stories of resistance and the just celebrate the power of women to help each other. I hope it changed people to, find their own agency.
There was a woman pastor up here, Mennonite woman pastor, who told the story of riding somewhere, like a carload of some men, and the man next to her, she found that a hand went under her seat, done by this man next to her.
She was a minister. She was a conference minister, and she got into a car of other conference ministers, and someone put their hand so that she would have to sit on his hand. Yeah.
The ignobility of it.
And that she confronted him, not at the time, but when they got out of the car, she says, "Don't you ever do that again, or I'm going to make a public thing about it." Like that she told him, "Don't do that." And I often think of that story, Carol Ann, because I had something, someone said, like a Mennonite minister said something very inappropriate to me at a meeting, and something sexual. And I confronted him afterwards, and I was thinking exactly of that person. And of course, he denied it. He said, "Oh, I didn't do that. I didn't say that." And it's like, oh, yeah.
It's cool, though. Like, her strength gave you that strength.
And you see, and the power of her story.
There's some sort of sense of the bonding it does to work on these kinds of levels with
create
people.
Together. Oh, yeah. And then to perform together. Like, performing was also just such a rush, that we did this, and we said those words in front of people. It was like a multi-layered approach through stories of showing the complexity of the way women are silenced and how they find their voice in very many complex ways.
It's a huge topic, and I don't know how many people from Mennonite background, women that is, have taken it upon themselves academically to study this.
Well, I'm so glad you are doing this work, this new project and continuing the work, but you didn't know about our work. Like, how do women hear about the work that we're doing and build on it? And that's like, I'm a theologian. And so one of the things I tell my students is that for women doing theology, when women could not write, every generation had to reinvent the wheel. They had to think their new thought, and then it got dropped. And then the next generation had to think their new thought. And it was just an oral tradition that could maybe pass on. But men were writing books and interacting with each other for, 1,500 years. But women didn't have that option for so long, especially Mennonite women didn't. And so as soon as women had the agency that they could go to school and write theology, and then we can read each other's theology and hear each other's artwork, that, it's like a snowball rolling. We learn from each other, and we don't have to reinvent that wheel again.
So, summarizing all that, something that was really interesting that we didn't leave in the podcast was we kind of asked the Carols if they had any advice for us for our process. And I think Carol Penner had said to archive it, as she, like, it was, not frustrating, but I guess it was maybe disappointing for them to hear that we'd never even heard of their project, and that we had to start from scratch. And that for so much of history, women have been given less opportunities to archive their work because of lack of education or knowing how to write or read or all these different reasons. Men have had their things archived and therefore built upon and built upon and built upon. But for women, as we advance, if we're unable to record and archive and pass on to someone, then the next person who has a similar thought has to start from scratch again, and there's no ball to roll. And so it's only in recent history that women have been able to build upon each other's work. And so that was, just what Carol was saying. She was like, make sure you archive your project and you put it somewhere where a woman in 20 years who wants to do a similar project can find it and can build upon what you've already done. So
Yeah, so you're not totally starting from scratch. And like, I think there's something in like a spiritual sense that we're building upon, but to not have the actual work and just even documenting things was harder then. Like
they didn't have any documents except for like a couple scanned pages from the script from a long time ago.
Like it's all
and like a
it's
program
all printed and written, or
some scribbled notes, but like they didn't have any of their project to give to us so that we could look at it. They just had little bits and pieces, and they were really like disappointed about that.
But it's like a gift what they could share with us. So going back to Mennonites, girls can cook. So we grew up, there's 3 girls, 2 boys in our family, and we were just talking about how it's interesting. Even like we grew up in the 90s and a lot has shifted already, but we still had such a traditional view within our family, and the women totally took care of the cooking and the cleaning. And like, I'm sure Dad cleaned.
He was more like outside stuff.
Yeah, he would
did
take
yard
care of the
work
yard.
and shoveling the walk in the cars and
like it was pink jobs and blue jobs. It was like so a part of it. And it's like girl jobs are pink jobs, boy jobs are blue jobs. And so like even like cooking, like I love cooking. I always did. Like as a kid, I thought it was fun to create something and like experiment, or I loved the idea of it. And so I would get in charge at like 10, 11, 12, be like, okay, you're gonna cook the meal, like it's your job, you gotta learn for your future husband, for like
was that really said though?
It like jokingly.
Yeah,
I remember
that's
like
true.
there would be jokes.
Yeah,
but like a joke is
there's
always
rooted in
there's truth in it.
That's true.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you're gonna be such a good wife, homemaker. Like I remember that being said to me.
Yeah,
and even though it was joking, it was said.
Yeah. And I never liked cooking. Like cooking was something that was a chore for me. I didn't enjoy it. I liked baking to a degree. I liked the creative part of baking, like decorating cookies or making shapes or that kind of thing. But I didn't like baking for the process. I always preferred the end part of baking, not the
the eating,
the eating or the decorating or putting it together. That part has always been the interesting part for me.
Yeah.
But cooking is never something I enjoyed. I eat because I have to, not because I want to. I don't know.
That's weird to me. Strange. So strange.
Yeah. So when I cooked, it was not good. And so I almost always had some kind of issue because I honestly, I was just lazy. I didn't follow the instructions. And so I'd skip things, or like, I still do. And sometimes it turned out and oftentimes it wouldn't. And then everyone would be like, we don't want to eat that. I'm like, fair enough. I ruined it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
You eat your own cooking, so that's...
I do.
It's fine.
Yep.
Yeah. Now you have a partner who cooks for you, so...
He sure does. It is nice.
You lucked out. It's great. Yeah. So, I think the idea of cooking... And, like, food itself is also such a thing to gather people around. Yeah. Like, it's like... That's it. Like, after church on a Sunday, everyone's gathered to eat.
Take people out for lunch. And
you invite people to your house and you eat, or like
mealtime for our family was always a big thing.
That's true. It was really important. Like
we always sat together for dinner.
It was really important that we would sit together and we would eat, and we would often do like a highs and a lows
or something like that.
Like talk about your day, share something you learned, something you enjoyed.
Yeah.
Like we liked talking and eating together. Yeah. It was important. And then Katrina didn't like eating, so she was stuck at the table.
I was just really picky about a lot of my eating when I was younger. I remember once I hid my lima beans in my glass of milk, and I thought I was so sneaky, but then my dad found out, and he made me sit at the table and drink that milk until it was done. And I'm still traumatized.
It's so funny, but it's good. Honestly, I would do that to my kid.
Yeah, I don't know.
Would you do that to your child?
I think I would give them a new set of lima beans and milk and ask them to do it again. I wouldn't force them to eat milky lima beans. But I understand the punishment. It fits the crime.
Anyway, so how this plays into our characters.
Right.
We're going to make our girl drink lima beans
out
of milk. No, we won't do that. But we think, yeah, it's like this character, she's gonna be this.
She's a woman.
Yeah, and like
food just naturally is part of her life.
And in her like 30s, 40s, by like the fourth episode,
yeah, she's gonna have to cook at some point.
Yeah, and like it's like probably in every episode, food will play a major role.
Yeah, that could be interesting to play with. Actually, is every section revolves around a meal of some kind.
Yeah, oh yeah,
that would be kind of interesting and very Mennonite of us.
Put some FOSFA in there or something.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be fun. Yeah,
that's something to think about.
That's a cool idea. Yeah. No ideas all the time, but yeah. So food's like so important, and then just the expectations on women and how you have to be the perfect mom and perfect woman and hold a career while cooking dinner and making sure.
And how if you're not a good cook, that like plays into your identity as a woman too. Like if you don't enjoy cooking or baking and providing things for the potluck and being in the kitchen at the church, that automatically makes you like you're not so good. You're less than.
Not quite a woman.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun to explore that for our character. So we'll see you in the next episode.
Go eat some cookies or something.
Yeah, go make something if that's something you enjoy doing.
Or don't.
And order in. Uber Eats it.
Uber Eats that.
We're not sponsored, by the way.
Not sponsored. You can though if you want.
Yeah, we'll take
We're
it.
open.
I think.
We'll look into it.